Okay, so after all the hype of last week's episode, the 1 hour special Goku vs Jiren, we get followed up with this episode, and this episode was great. They did a good job actually following up on that special. Honestly though, the animation in this episode was much better than the animation last week. At some points last week, the animation was a little derpy, and Jiren and Goku were sometimes off modeled while they were fighting, and it wasn't consistent. But this episode was fairly consistent, and yeah, we actually got some results this episode, and it's finally half the time of the Tournament of Power. Half the time in the Tournament of Power has passed, so we're going into the other half of the Tournament of Power. Okay, so this episode is mainly about Jiren versus Hit, but I think significant things happened in this episode also. Like, a lot of people probably didn't pay attention to this because it wasn't like the highlight of the episode, but Vegeta versus Ribbriane, there was something interesting I realized that during that fight, or like after that fight. Well, Vegeta was fighting Ribbriane. He beat her, of course, but Rosie came in and saved Ribbriane. But after that, they disappeared and hid under some rock. But Rosie tries to convince or kind of raise Ribbriane's spirits, because she started to doubt if they could actually win under all this other higher powers around them, like Jiren, and how Goku is strong, and how she can't even beat Vegeta at this point in time because Vegeta is not even a strong contender. Vegeta is strong, but he's not one of those guys that Jiren went after right off the bat. So yeah, she's losing hope now. But Rosie told her, like, she encouraged her by saying, like, is this really the extent of your love? Is this the extent? Love is stronger than this. That kind of crap, you know. I know it sounds really cheesy, but it brought to mind the Pretty Cure series. Like, normally when it comes to scenes like this, they get a new transformation. So I'm pretty sure at least sometime in the future, Ribbriane or Rosie or somebody will get some kind of new transformation, new attack, somewhere later down on the line. Okay, now on to Hit versus Jiren. Well, the only thing I can say about this really is that just how OP is Jiren exactly? Like, I'm just starting to really wonder right now. Like, his powers even surpass the power of Hit's time skip. I mean, we all expected that, but like Vado said in this one episode, his powers may even surpass the powers of time, and that is crazy. That is really crazy. So Hit fights Jiren, and Jiren is completely overpowering all his time skip stuff. Like, he's just way too fast. He can predict them even without the time Goku took to adapt to the time skip. He could just do it immediately. Even with his move where he stores skipped time and creates another dimension where he's in, and all that stuff, Jiren completely just tanked that the first time around. It wasn't even like a trial and error thing. He didn't even see it once. He just immediately just cut it down. He was like, nope, not going to work on me. However, though, we did see that Jiren, in fact, he does have openings, because Hit's plan was to actually find an opening. That's why he was repeating his time skip over and over and over again. Like, Hit's not the type of person who would actually repeat something that doesn't work, but that was Hit's plan. He had to repeat this time skip until he could find an opening, until Jiren not let down his guard. Jiren never let down his guard, but Hit was actually trying to memorize his reaction time, Jiren's reactions, so he counter. So he knew when exactly to counter. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So he knew when exactly to counter. So he did that, and when he finally got the timing, he landed a fist on Jiren's heart area. It was a move that trapped Jiren in a cage of time and froze him, and Hit was planning to keep him there for the rest of the Tournament of Power, or at least as long as he possibly could. But he quickly realized that he couldn't. Jiren, who's the beast, could not be stopped by even stopped time. So Jiren starts to move and force himself out of that cage of time. And Hit was just like, oh, screw it all. Like, I'm going to bet it all on this. I'm going to use all my power to try and defeat you, Jiren, for all of Universe 6, because that's his job. So, and he even tells Kaba and the other people from Universe 6 that, yeah, go do their jobs while I'll do mine. And the only things that you can do, so go ahead, let's leave this to me to handle. Like, leave me alone here. I'll handle this. But sadly, it ended up with him being knocked off the arena. He fought a great fight and he lost against Jiren. Of course, we all knew he would because it's Jiren at this point. The way Jiren knocked Hit off was actually the same way he knocked Kale off. Well, he almost knocked Kale off the time when she went berserk. He just knocked him off with a ki blast and then turned around while it exploded in the background. Okay, so that was the end of Hit versus Jiren, and that was actually the end of Jiren fighting as of now, because he actually put himself in a meditating state, and he was technically just all like, well, you don't need me for any of the other fighters here anymore. You and Topo can handle this dispo. I'm just gonna sit here, meditate. I'm not needed anymore. All the other guys aren't worth my time. He even stares at Goku before he says that, and he just looks away and says, yeah, you're not even worth my time right now, Goku. And that was Jiren's mistake. That is why Goku will somehow come back from behind and wreck you in some way, Jiren. This is one of those moments where one of the characters can end the main character right now, or like completely eliminate them, and they just don't because of plot reasons, because oh, you're not worth my time, but it comes back to bite them later on in the story. Other highlights of this episode though, the Namekians finally show up and start to do something. By the Namekians, I mean the Namekians of Universe 6. Like, they saw Goku watching the Hit versus Jiren fight, and they tried to attack him from behind, but Gohan and Piccolo blocked them, so they didn't succeed in trying to attack the Weakened at this point. So now they have to deal with Gohan and Piccolo. Also, I like the fact that Frieza in the beginning of the episode gave Goku energy, but he made sure no one was watching before he gave Goku energy. He doesn't want anyone to know he actually did something nice for Goku for once. It was just to settle a debt that happened on Planet Namek. That's what he said. All debts were paid. So he has no more Goku related debts. Also, he doesn't want to fight the monster named Jiren, so he wanted Goku to actually do something about Jiren at some point in the tournament, because he wouldn't want to fight Jiren at all. Okay, so half the attacks have already gone down, so that half the time of the Tournament of Power has already passed. So now that half the time has passed, maybe we'll finally get to see those two warriors from Universe 4 that we haven't seen since the beginning. Is it Universe 4? I think it's Universe 4, but there are two warriors that were mentioned that we just haven't seen yet, and they will appear at some point during this Tournament of Power. I can't wait for more reveals and more action and more Goku versus Jiren or Frieza versus Jiren or something like that. What would be poetic justice would be something along the lines that Frieza actually eliminates both Goku and Jiren while they're fighting or while they're weak at some point, and he will become like the fighter of the Tournament of Power who gets the Super Dragon Ball wish. Yeah, we'll see what happens in that regard. Anyways, that's it for my review of Dragon Ball Super episode 111. Next week may be a really good episode. I hope it is. I hope they don't screw Vegeta over any more than they already are. Yeah, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and leave your comments on the episode. And I'll see you next week.